Hello and welcome to Spiel Jahres ? A series where I'll be looking at the games that have won the German Game of the Year. The Spiel Jahres has been around since 1979 and is awarded based on concept, rule structure, components and design. Yes, I've remembered them all. I'm going to include that. That's perfectly fine. Gives it a real edge. If a game wins the Spiel Jahres, it can expect to sell into the hundreds of thousands of copies of games. In the modern day, when hundreds of games are being released every year, the Spiel Jahres is even more important as a guiding light of quality for those new people entering the hobby. This time we're going to be looking at the 2014 winner, Camel Up. In Camel Up, 2 to 8 players will engage in a gambling contest of camel racing around a pyramid-dominated track. Each turn, players will either place a bet on the leg of the race, bet on the overall winner or loser, place a desert or oasis tile on the track, or roll a die. This isn't done with a simple toss of a hand, but rather the shake and push of a lever. In Camel Up, when a camel moves, if it ends its turn on another camel's space, it doesn't share it, it climbs atop it, putting it in front. If the camel underneath moves, then it will carry the camel above it with it. Hence, Camel Up. The focal point of any components look at this game has to feature the dice shaking pyramid. This is a truly wonderful component, despite the fact that it could have been done in a far less lavish way. The scale of the pyramid adds a three-dimensionality to the board, as well as adding a sense of journey as you go around. It doesn't always work, but it does mean that when you teach the game, there's a uniquely visual element to it. And if somebody on their turn wants to take the technically safe option of rolling a dice, then it means that they get to have some fun. You need to listen for the clink for it to work. So I didn't hear the clink, so it's trapped here. Yes! Camel Up encapsulates so much of what the Spiel Jahres should do. Just from the welcoming box cover, it looks like a mousetrap or a Cluedo. And it's a perfect game for a parent and child to play together. The swings of fortune level out the playing field. It provides so many of those, oh, can you remember when? Or, oh, I can't believe that happened moments that really are just the joy of spending time rather than games that just consume time. The one caveat I'd have in the accessibility of this game is the deserts and the oasis. There's no question that these add a lot when you're playing with gamers, but as a Spiel Jahres introducing games to families or new people, I found that the oasis and the desert tiles can just be one rule too many. So while I love Camel Up, especially as an ambassador of gaming, I do occasionally leave these out for a few rounds and then bring them into the game. It's quite fashionable amongst gamers to poo-poo Camel Up as the Spiel Jahres winner and say that Splendor should have won it. This is where people mostly just use box lids, but I wanted to stay true and use the actual game. And say that Splendor should have won. And while Splendor has more strategic and tactical decision making in it, and that's definitely true, I feel that it lacks the standing up from your seat and the genuine excitement that Camel Up can provide. Splendor is a much thinkier, stronger introduction to a more Euro-based world, and it's a great game. And I still think to the right person, it's a good introduction to games. But Camel Up, for me, it has much broader appeal, and I think the Spiel Jahres needs to be that. It needs to be broad. The question of how relevant Camel Up still is as a Spiel Jahres winner is obviously slightly moot, since it only won it in 2014, and that would be really damning if it couldn't even last a year. However, I can see this game always being a great ambassador for gaming, and I can see it continuing to be relevant for gamers as well. The expansion Super Cup added 4 modules, so if you want a bit more meat in your game sandwich, you can have it. Ultimately, I think Camel Up was the right choice to win the Spiel Jahres. While Concept and Splendor both had a bit more intellectually going on than Camel Up is still several degrees smarter than the mass market games that the Spiel Jahres is designed to provide an alternative to. So I think Camel Up will stand as a great winner of the Spiel Jahres and is still exceptionally relevant to the modern gaming scene, new gamers and old gamers alike. Now the true question is it called Camel Up or Camel Cup? Well, quite clearly it's Camel Up, since Camel Cup never won the Spiel Jahres, so end of discussion.